Hello, welcome to RAVE, Session 2. My name is Eric Smith. I'm the owner and president of Redwood Art Group. With me is Hannah Smith, our social media manager, and Linda Mariano, our marketing director. We're so happy to have you joining us today. We had a great time in yesterday's session, and I think today's session is going to be just as captivating. We're going to visit some amazing people from San Diego to Murano, Italy, and the Czech Republic. Let's start with a toast, Hannah and Linda.
Cheers.
Of Pommery Champagne, which is a cordial sponsor of ours. And there's the bottle we're drinking tonight.
And the video you just watched was a sneak peek into the incredible art installations that were filmed throughout Maison Pommery in Champagne, France. And we are so pleased to have them as a sponsor again.
I personally can't wait to be able to travel again and see those art installations in person. Pommery has been a major player in the world of art since its creation, and they stay faithful to the memory of Madame Pommery. They continue exhibiting really cool contemporary art, as you could see in that video.
And after the event and throughout the weekend, make sure you check out the sponsors tab so you can learn more about Pommery.
So let's talk a little bit about tonight's event and what an amazing lineup we have.
Yeah, we have an artist from Italy who is challenging gender norms.
A photographer who allows us to see the world without leaving our homes.
A rock star's personal trainer.
And a bishop's assistant. Let me fill you in on the concept of RAVE. So most of you know that we produce live events from San Diego, Art Santa Fe, Art Expo New York, and Spectrum and Red Dot Miami. In total, we have 8 events for Redwood Art Group. And we haven't produced an event since the Art Basel events, Redwood or Red Dot Miami and Spectrum in December 2019. So my whole staff, there's 15 of us, have been furloughed, but there's a few of us that are still involved, like Linda and Hannah and myself and Kelly and Jeff and Laura, who's behind the scenes, and Mark Shapiro. And we're keeping our community together by conducting these RAVE events and trying to keep the artists, collectors, and galleries of our community kind of moving along until we can get back to our next live event, which I hope is in the third quarter of this year. So that's kind of where we are. But we want to create a positive virtual experience with you. And I think we did that last night. We had some really compelling discussions, and you get to know the artists, the galleries, and take time to hear their stories. Kind of gives you a behind the scenes look of the art business. And hopefully, like in December when we did RAVE Miami, we sold quite a bit of art, and the artists appreciate it if you find something you like.
And we are coming to you live tonight from beautiful Palm Desert, California. But more importantly, we want to know where you guys are tuning in from. So make sure to write in the chat box on the right side of the viewing screen where you're tuning in from. And feel free to make comments, ask questions, whatever you'd like throughout the show. And we will try to answer a few and give some shout outs tonight. And then also we will be posting the exhibitor's booth link once we introduce each artist. But if you want to view their booth, make sure you open a new tab so you can continue to listen to us and live stream us while browsing their pieces and maybe adding to your collection.
Yep. And if you do browse their pieces and you're in a RAVE booth, you can see at the bottom there's a guest book. And we highly encourage you to make notes there. Introduce yourself to the artist. Talk about one of their pieces, maybe if you like it. You could even set up an appointment to meet with them later, offer up your phone number or email and say, I'd really like to talk to you about this piece, because we're not taking any commissions. The artists are receiving 100% of the sales. We're doing this just to keep them going, during this pandemic. And well, enough said there, right?
Yeah. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, and enjoy the next hour.
So next up, I'm going to turn this over to Linda, and she's going to interview Patricia Fischer of the San Diego Art Prize. So Linda, you hit it, and we'll be back.
Okay. Well, welcome, Patricia. we're really excited to have you here with us today. There you are. Okay. Patricia is one of the art industry's leaders and developers on the West Coast. She's been a gallerist, a curator, a teacher, and an artist herself. She's the founder and director of the San Diego Visual Art Network and always working fervently to bring the visual arts community together. We've been partners, Patricia, I think since the beginning of Art San Diego. And it's really been our honor to have the Art Prize recipients as part of Art San Diego every year. Tell us about the San Diego Visual Arts Network and how the Art Prize came to be.
Thank you, Linda, and Eric and Laura. I'm delighted to be here. I raise my glass as a thank you as well to all the wonderful opportunities that you've given artists around the world. A special welcome to everyone, because I am indeed in San Diego, and we have a beautiful day here. It's 80 degrees, brilliant sunshine. Inside the house, it's 80 degrees. I don't think it's quite that warm outside. And I just want to say a big thank you for giving us this opportunity over all these years. I also really need to start today's session with a dedication to our good friend Larry Baza, who was the chair of the California Arts Council and unfortunately passed away from COVID-19 only a couple of weeks ago. He was on our San Diego Art Prize committee, and Erica Torre, Deborah Poteet, Alexander Moctezuma, Felicia Shaw, and Arturo Rodriguez, I'm sure join with me to say what a tremendous loss this is, not only for the San Diego community, but for everyone in California. He was a very beloved member of our art support group. So a little bit about the San Diego Visual Arts Network and how we got involved here. We started off because we knew that we needed to have a directory and an events calendar that was promoting the visual arts. And we're now up to 2,500 visual arts resources listed on our site. We get about 1 million hits a year. And I'm really pleased with this RAVE event because in the last year since the pandemic began, we have featured more than 250 virtual visual arts events in the San Diego region. And it's just the way the future is going to be for all of us. So the sooner we get used to this, and the better. And also, it's a tremendous opportunity to spread to so many more people throughout the world. How did we get to 2,500 visual arts resources and 1 million hits a year? Well, we started off by doing a whole array of projects that had huge audience and resource participation. And the San Diego Art Prize has been the longest ongoing one of those projects. Some of the other projects were Movers and Shakers, where we featured VIPs with portraits by local artists, VIPs in the art world. We did Little and Large, jewelers making sculpture and sculptors doing jewelry. We did the DNA of Creativity. But again, the San Diego is really our attempt to try to do a similar thing that the Turner Art Prize had done in England, right? And what the Turner Art Prize had done is it had moved the market from impressionist and modern to contemporary artists. And it's really because of the Turner Art Prize that you see the phenomenal prices for contemporary art in today's world. And so we think that something similar would be very helpful to San Diego. We're in our 14th year. Our criteria for choosing the San Diego Art Prize winners is always excellence. We don't choose the theme, but we work to find the 4 best artists that we can find that have done work in the last 3 years. Now, I've had my little sip of champagne, but now I want to do a little toast to the British involvement in the Art Prize. A little sip of whiskey, a wee dram,
Oh,
followed by a pickleback. So let's keep the energy going here.
so Patricia, you've just described that kind of the evolution of the Art Prize over the years. What can you tell us about your selection committee and how you get to the final winning artists?
Right. So then every year we have nominators. The nominators are made up from last year's artist and all the professionals that wrote about those artists in our catalog, plus the Art Prize Committee, the names I already gave out to you. And we also invite the venue that is showing the artist to nominate. And last year and this year, that's going to be the Bread and Salt Gallery. So Thomas DeMello, Isabella Dutra, and James Brown are involved with Bread and Salt. That's an exhibition that will happen in October, right after Art San Diego, which we're hoping will be live again. Exactly. And that is a selection committee that nominates. We consider everybody that's been nominated worthy of receiving the prize. And that includes everybody that's been nominated in all 13 seasons before this. They're all eligible, they're all deserving of the prize. So how does it get selected? It gets selected from the Art Prize Committee, which is only a selection of of 8 people who help us to decide from a cross of gender, ethnicity, and medium, so that we spread out and make sure that everything is covered, and it becomes a very equalizing factor for the San Diego Art Prize. We think that that's really, really important. It isn't decided by a particular theme, it's decided by the excellence of that work, but trying to get a big spread. So last year there were 4 women for the very first time. Yay. This is Women's History Month right now. And this year, once we chose the people, we realized that they all were tied together with a wonderful binational theme, because they all live in Mexico and in America.
Well, we're so honored to be revealing this year's 4 winning artists. And we've got a terrific short video to do that with. So Laura, let's play the video.
Each year, the Art Prize honors 4 artists for their exceptional creativity and their contributions to the San Diego arts community.
Wow.
Wow.
I love that.
I thought that was terrific. Such a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
They're each so intriguing. And can you tell us a little bit about each one of them? Tell us about Belize, Zira's Day.
Okay, so first I want to start by saying that Kai Essery, that was mentioned there, is the administrator and the curator for the Art Prize. She makes sure that we get all the information that we need, but more important than that, she makes sure that when the artist's work is on display, that it looks really good. She's really the curator for us for the San Diego Art Prize now. So all of these, like we said before, all these artists are binational. They all go back and forth between America and Mexico. But I think what we need to remember right now is that we're in year 2 of a pandemic, right? And so a lot of the subject matter for these artists that deals with the border, that is issues of immigration, that is about cultural comparisons, that's about, you know, the struggles that artists have and the struggles that we all have, they get united together with the idea that there is a pandemic right now, and the struggles that artists take or have currently and will be showing when they display their work eventually in the fall of this year, which will be, you know, almost a year and 3/4 into the pandemic. So Belize lives in, she was born in Turkey. She's a ceramicist and a mixed media artist. And she lives with her family in Valle de Guadalupe. I first met Belize when she had a show, I believe it was Ship in the Woods. And she was completely covered head to toe in black. She was wearing a burqa. And it was interactive. She got me into a burqa. And so the only thing that was showing was my eyes. And for the very first time, I actually was able to experience what it was like to lose my identity and really become an it or a thing. Even when friends of mine came to the event, they didn't recognize me. They avoided me all dressed in black. They looked at me like I was an alien. And I think that is a very similar feeling to what happens when we think about aliens cross border. Belize has a way of working beautifully with traditional materials, with the ceramic blues, with calligraphy, with fine painting, and all of her work is really quite elegant, even though it has this very, very strong underlying political message involved in it. The concepts that she's expressing, you know, she wouldn't be able to do that in Turkey. So it's really quite an interesting role that she plays in bringing to light issues that are binational.
How about Perry Vasquez? Tell us a little bit about him.
Okay, so Perry's father was born in Chicago of Mexican immigrants, and his mother was a coal miner's daughter from West Virginia.
Wow.
And he's probably best known for his Keep on Crossing project,
Right.
that was,
Right.
which is quite famous. But he's always been a landscape artist as well. And what he's doing now is he's painting. He's taking another traditional symbol of Southern California, the palm tree, and he's treating it like a portrait. Now, I don't know if any of the rest of you have ever seen this, but I was able to drive down the highway between San Diego and Palm Springs, and there was a palm tree on fire along the side of the road, and it is show-stopping to see that. And he has many of his pictures that are evolved around that theme. He works over and over and over with this same subject matter in what I like to say is one of the things that is my favorite attribute of an artist, and that is compulsive obsessive behavior. I think that makes artists very interesting. And artists use these kind of rituals, and that's what keeps us sane during a pandemic.
Absolutely. How about Hugo Crossway?
Okay, so Hugo has a very large international reputation
He does.
already. Yeah, he's a star. He's a superstar.
Very recognizable.
Right, and he's the 2019 winner of the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery Outwin Botschauer Portrait Competition with a stop animation video, and that's what he's working on now. For Hugo, he is an American citizen now, but he was born in Tijuana, and he has this same compulsion. He's filling diaries, and they're very small little diaries, but the images pour out of his hands like ink flowing out of the ends of his fingers. It's just amazing, the profusion of imagery that comes out. And the stop animation is not just one page out of this diary. It's as the page gets filled. The ultimate concept is going to be, I believe, to have a whole wall full of videos of these stop animation, sort of like if you were to look at a security, be in a security room, and there would be a wall of security monitors. There's a sort of voyeuristic, looking into his personal life. And I think that what he's calling these the quarantine diaries. So I think this is a survival technique for him during the pandemic.
I bet. He's always so busy, and now he's kind of confined.
Right.
Tell us about the fourth artist, Panka.
Panka. All right. She was born in Chula Vista of Mexican parents, and she's an illustrator, a painter, a muralist, an installation artist. She goes back and forth. During her childhood, she went back and forth often across the border. And the interesting thing is her work is always colorful. It's always a little bit childlike when you first look at it. But if you take a deeper dive, there is a lot of angst and a lot of very serious subject matter in the work. She's had a particular problem during the pandemic because she's had a commission to do work for the Children's Museum. And that work has to be lighthearted. It has to be full of hope. It has to be, for children. And this is a point in her life where she's really anxious, and maybe even a little bit of despair is there. So having to work on this commission for the Children's Museum, I think has actually been very helpful for her to have something to concentrate on, that at the end of it will come out and be this, be something that lights up people's lives, because her work always does that. It lights up people's lives. Artists are on this earth to reach for this, reach for the stars, right?
Absolutely.
To be hope is going to bring us. And I am immensely proud of these four artists, and so pleased that they're our choice for the San Diego Art Prize this year. So I think that calls for another toast, don't you? This time it really has to be tequila, don't you think? Cheers.
Listen, I can't wait until we're all together at Art San Diego in October, and I can meet these four artists and see their work in person. In the meantime, at the end of today's session, Kai Essery, the curator, did an interview with each of the four artists, and they're truly remarkable, and each one living their passion as a cross-border artist. And please stay at the end of today's session and take a look at the four Art Prize winners for 2021. And Patricia, thanks so much for your partnership, for being who you are. It's so great to have you with us. And we'll see you at Art San Diego in October.
Yay!
Yay! So Eric and Hannah, next I think we're going to go visit with Alexis Silk, right? She's a conceptual
We are.
glass sculpture artist, and she works in Murano, Italy. So this should be exciting.
Let's bring in Alexis. Hi, Alexis.
Alexis, you're muted.
Uh-oh, now we have to do a shot. There you go.
Got it.
There we go.
Hi,
As
Alexis.
artists and
Welcome.
technology. Hello.
So I know you're not in Italy right now. Tell us where you are.
I'm actually in the Northwest on a tiny little island called Marrowstone, northwest even of Seattle, Washington. Finally getting a chance to visit with my family again after a year being abroad in Italy, where I normally live and work, in Italy for a year over the pandemic, and very, very happy to be back, to be with my mother, and she's happy to see my her grandson, my son, and so yeah.
Luckily you've your mother has acquired a couple of your pieces, so we get to see one next to you. So
Exactly.
good job there.
They're never far
And
from me.
perfect. And you've traveled quite a bit, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my life is always traveling. I am home based in Italy in the Dolomite Mountains, and then actually travel to Venice for work, to Murano Island. But I spend so much of my time pre-pandemic traveling all over the world for my art. I was just in Turkey doing a show with a museum there, and a glass conference where I was one of 3 selected women to be represented, and really all over the world, all over Europe and the United States. I crisscross the US a couple times a year. So and I'm missing that, of course, but I'm so thankful to be here with you guys today, and actually did want to not forget to do a special thanks to Linda and Eric, and just feel so blessed to have had such a long 12-year relationship with you guys, and did want to also make sure and thank all of my collectors who continue to stay in contact here, hopefully watching on. Could not do this without you guys, so thank you for being a part of this as
Right.
well.
We're happy to have you.
Well, let's give the audience a little taste of what it's like to work with glass, because your pieces are heavy. And, those that don't know, I mean, Alexis is in pretty good shape. And I always thought she worked out a lot, but it's the heavy glass she's working with. And, the glass is over 1,000 degrees, and you can't touch it with your hands. It's not like molding clay or something like that, right? So, why don't you give us an idea of that, Alexis?
Yeah, it is undescribably heavy and undescribably hot. And really, from the very first week that I worked with glass, the instructor turned his head, and I was getting 4 or 5 gathers out of the furnace, which is pretty unbelievable for a first week. Just wanted more glass. It's really in my nature to work in a large scale. I love the physicality and really the heat. So, not all glass is as physical as what I choose to do, but I really so much love the extreme physicality of it. My work ranges up to at least half my body weight, and not to be I cannot state enough how important my team is, because without them I could not do any of what I do. And I work with those largest pieces with a team of 8 assistants. So it's this incredible ballet of all of us together, and we're all at our absolute max. These are guys that have been working with glass for much longer than I've been alive, and just incredible master glass workers that are accustomed to these incredible weights. And we are all at our absolute max and beyond when we're creating some of my pieces. So it's really an incredible feat. And I do encourage all of you to check out a video I have in my booth page, because it gives you just a little bit more of an idea of that. Of course, you can't get an idea of the heat from that, but coming off your screen, but it'll definitely give you an idea of the incredible, seemingly choreographed nature of it, when indeed it is just everyone being so in tune with one another and the material. So check it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you described it as a ballet when we were
Mhm.
talking earlier, and it is. I would encourage the viewers to watch the video, because Alexis is working with one piece, and there's 3 or 4 other people, up to 8, preparing the next pieces to attach to other pieces, and it's pretty remarkable.
And so when you create a new piece, do you have an idea in your mind, or do you just have to go with the flow of what the glass is kind of giving you?
The answer to that is really both, because with any new work that I'm starting on, the piece really originates with the idea. And for me, that's the most important thing about my work is the concept and the idea that I'm trying to communicate to the world. And so each piece starts there, and then from there I go to the drawing board literally and draw out that work in actual size that it will be. So I have these huge rolls of paper where I'm drawing on a wall, and then after I get the drawing out, which is a challenge for me, then I have to go through the process in my mind of how that's actually going to work out technically in the hot shop, in the glass studio. Because once we're in the glass studio working with the glass, there's no second guessing or going back. If it doesn't work, even just the smallest movement, the piece doesn't have to actually break, but just a little slip and that piece is done. So, and you have to start over. So which brings me to the second part of your question. It is also a conversation with the glass, because although you may, I definitely have a very clear idea technically and mentally and visually what I'm going for, the glass is alive, and it acts differently every time. There's no way you can control the environment or the medium itself to a certainty. It's really this constant conversation and evolution between myself and the piece and my assistants. So
Right. And for those of you, well, some of you have probably been to Art Expo New York, and Alexis participates as an exhibitor every year. And usually by the second day, I see red dot, red dot, red dot, red dot. I mean, you do very well at the show, and I'm very happy for you. And I know you're represented by many galleries around the world too, including galleries in Paris, Murano, St. Petersburg, Florida, Detroit, Santa Fe. And congratulations on all that. You've built a great career. Hit the last
thank
one.
you. Yeah.
Is there anything else for viewers to know?
Well, I want to say again, special thanks to you, Eric, and the whole Redwood Art Group. You guys, I've just enjoyed our relationship for 12 years now. If we count this year, which it counts, that was 12th year, and we've just had an incredible run at it. And of course, my very dedicated collector base. I love meeting new collectors every year at Art Expo, but I also just want to say thank you to my longtime collectors that when I think you can't have enough, you keep coming back for more. So thank you to all of you. And I look forward to meeting some new people with this new, both from San Diego and this new way to expand even a wider a wider market and wider audience, because truly that is what my work is about. So when looking at my work, you can understand that each piece really involves the concept behind it, and that's what's most important to me. So thank you for being receptive to that, to everyone out there. Thank you, and thanks for tuning in.
And before we say goodbye to Alexis, we're going to go to Laura real quick. Laura, what do you have to report there?
Hey, we have a David and Arlene here watching Alexis, and they are very excited to see you. And we've just got people from all over checking in as usual. Michael from North Florida, Stephen from Santa Fe. I just want to thank everybody on the chat, and keep it up and tell us where you're from and ask questions.
I'd like to say one more
Okay.
thing, if I can.
Is this your?
Oh,
Aw.
say hi. Say hi. My best work of art ever.
I
Oh
know.
my gosh.
Congratulations. We haven't got to
Thank
meet
you.
him yet, but you were pregnant last time we saw each other. So.
I am pregnant this time too.
Oh my,
gosh,
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Six
You
months
heard it,
along.
folks. The
So,
scoop.
so
All right.
thank you.
So nice
Thank
to
you,
see
and
you.
thank you guys. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Now we're going to go to Chuck Gebhardt, who is the son of Chris and Angela Gebhardt. And
He's a little older than Alexis's son.
yeah, I checked. So I'll give you everybody a little background. Kelly and I and Hannah
Mhm.
met Chris and Angela, Chuck's parents, about 10 years ago. And they invited us to go to West Baden, which is in French Lick, Indiana. And Chris had an idea of putting together an artist education conference there. And my first reaction to Chris was, who's going to West Baden, French Lick, Indiana? And he kind of laughed and said, please come see the resort anyway. And so Kelly and I and Hannah and her friend Michelle jumped in our car, and we went to meet Chris and Angela. And we went to dinner that night, and Chris told his story of him and Angela, and it lasted about 2 hours, I think, and it was enthralling. So Chuck's father is a personal trainer, and they own a spa together, he and his wife, and she started painting before him, and Chuck will tell us about that story in a little bit. But we had a wonderful time, and they've become dear friends of ours. In fact, when Kelly and I got married, I bought a piece from Chris and Angela because she fell in love with it, and that was her wedding present. So
welcome.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about how your parents started painting?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's so funny. I growing up, I think of my mom always as an artist first, or a mom first, artist second. But she started painting when I was in high school, and we had a studio that was kind of like a makeshift part of our house, and I just remember seeing all the paintings and everything, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool! Like, I can't believe my mom can create that amazing stuff. I mean, I consider myself the best creation that she's made, so all the art may take a back seat to that. But as she started painting, my dad would walk through the house, and he would say oh, maybe that line should be blue instead of red, or oh, I think I'd like this piece a little better if it was a little bigger. And it caused I would say a rift, where every time my dad would walk into the room where she was painting, she'd just be like, stop, I don't want to hear it. I know what you're going to say, and this is what I want to do. And so when I moved out and went on my own journey, my room the next day was turned into her studio, which was hilarious. And my dad ended up buying a shipping container, and he started painting in a shipping container on their property. And lo and behold, there were paintings everywhere. And I think when you look at their pieces side by side at the shows, there's a beautiful contrast between one of my dad's pieces here, and my mom's pieces are so bright and they're so large and so colorful. And so it's just been kind of cool to see all my dad influence on some of her early work, when he was, backseat painting, and now he has his own way, and he paints in the garage or in the shipping container, and they all turn out the way they do, and they're all great.
Yeah, they really are. They've really grown and been very successful over the past, especially the past 5-6 years. It took them a while. They did a number of our shows, and they just kept working at it. And now they're very successful. And to let the audience know, these paintings are big. I mean, the painting
They
that
really are.
I purchased was 8 feet by 8 feet.
Mhm.
And so Chuck, you're kind of known as the roadie of the group, and that's how I know so well. And usually he's sweating, and we're setting up a big exhibit. Their exhibits are usually, 12 feet deep and 40 feet wide. And Chuck's tasked with the unloading of the truck and hanging the art and everything else. Tell us what that's like.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you noticed that I was sweating. That's so weird. I think, when they first started painting, like you mentioned, like it's been maybe 10 to 12 years now that they have really been artists and what I would consider a professional sense. And like, I remember going to the first show and like renting a U-Haul small cargo van to take that to, I believe it was New York. It could have been Miami. I couldn't be sure, but I remember getting asked to, well, more told to help carry the art into the trailer or into the van. And that was always a fun experience. As you can imagine, it's one thing if you have people that are hired to move your stuff, and it's another if it's your children. So my brother and I were the muscle, and we were carrying the pieces around. And so at first it was, just a few pieces going to a show, a small little booth. And then as it's grown, more and more pieces, not only has the truck gotten bigger, they've stopped renting. They just bought a trailer, bought a few trailers, and now they're onto an RV that has a garage in the back that's a mobile studio. And then the pieces have gotten larger. And like you said, like an 8 by 10. We've seen some that are like, I think the largest one I've seen is like a 20 by 12. And it can't be carried into a space unless it has an overhead door. And my dad, paints these paintings. I believe this one has a steel frame on it, and it's probably upwards of 200 pounds. And so my brother and I just laugh every time we go do a show, because we're constantly going into the trailer, and sometimes we'll meet them in destination. So I wouldn't have loaded the trailer, and we'll get there, and my brother and I will go to lift a piece up, and it'll be like, holy shit, like this has gotten heavier. Is this iron? And so my dad's like, oh, it's whatever. It's gotta have a frame on it. Looks better. And they paint with such substance that I feel like even without the frame, a lot of their work is almost sculptural, because it's so much that goes onto the canvas. And I'll go down to their house sometime to visit them in the studio, and I'll see a piece 1 month and then go a month later, and with my mom it might be the same piece, and it might be there's just a whole nother layer on it, and it just is a living thing that grows and grows and grows. And I think that's such a cool thing. And for us, obviously I would like them to get lighter, obviously, so it'd be a little easier to hang them so they don't sweat. And especially like, even in Miami in December, it's still hot. So we keep saying, when my dad calls us, it's always like, oh, all right, well, I got to go get my my workout clothes on, because I'm about to go do a weightlifting session. So, yeah.
And the pieces get bigger, and the collectors, their collector base just keeps growing, but the collectors really get the first class experience when they have a piece delivered, because they're just too big to ship at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's for sure. I've done my fair share of ferrying paintings across the country. Their studios is here in Indiana, in Bloomington. And so all the work gets loaded up in Bloomington, and we'll make a trip down to Miami. I know there was that one year we went from Miami right to Vegas. So my brother and I drove right to Vegas. We did the show in Vegas, and we drove back to Indiana. And I was thinking about it when Alexis was talking. There's that wine that is sailed around the world to age on a ship And I feel like a lot of the work that I've seen end up in people's homes. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember carrying that into the show in New York, and I remember carrying it into Miami, and I remember hanging it in Las Vegas. And so it's made a trip around the country for sure. And that's just adding more to the story behind the piece that may end up on your wall somewhere.
That's right. Well, I'll encourage all the viewers to go to the Gebhardt Gallery page and see the work. And Chuck is right. Chris's work is very masculine, paints bulls and people and figurative work. And Angela's is more a little abstract. And then the circular paintings she's doing are absolutely lovely. So I want to thank you for joining us, Chuck. Thanks a lot, and say hi to your folks. I'm sorry they couldn't be with us tonight, but we're glad.
It's all right. I'm happy to fill in.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Yep. See you soon.
Next, we're going to go to Linnell Nellison. And Linnell is in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we got to know her a little bit this week. Hi, Linnell. You're muted.
You're muted.
Uh-oh.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah, that's
That's
better.
better.
We have to take a drink of champagne when you're muted.
Perfect.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Good. I wanted to thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you. So can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been painting?
I've been painting and doing all sorts of different forms of art since I was probably about 4 or 5. So quite a while. I've had a lot of time to experiment with all sorts of different mediums, and I always keep going back to acrylic. So.
Well, a lot of artists do because it dries faster and you can keep moving on, right?
Yep, that's for sure.
The last time we talked, we were talking about your two styles, your monochromatic pieces and then the colorful pieces and the landscapes. And because of the pandemic, you and I decided let's focus on the colorful landscape pieces for RAVE session 2 here. And so that's what we're doing. I would encourage our viewers to go to Linnell's page and look at, what was that piece I liked? The Lavender Field.
Lavender Fields,
Yeah. That was a really good. Tell us how you get your inspiration for your paintings.
A lot of my inspirations are from dreams. I don't sleep a lot. I have dreams. I wake up in the middle of the night and then I get up and I sketch them down. I label everything. So I'm afraid I'm going to forget the colors and the really important parts of the painting that I need to do. And then I go back to bed. And it's just kind of interesting. Some of the dreams are really vivid and the colors are really vivid. Others are just more intense emotions, and it just kind of has a broad range of things that I see.
And how long does it take you to create a piece?
That kind of depends on what all goes into it and how big it is and how much time I have to work on it. So, I mean, I lose track of time when I start painting. And when I think I'm in here for about, to me, it feels like it's about, like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And I think I'll just go in and I'll just paint for just a little bit. And I'll come back out to take a break and I will realize I have been in here for 5 hours. And, there was one time when I was in here and I was in here for almost 8 hours straight. And, but it just never seems like it's that long. I just kind of lose myself in it. And, yeah, but I guess that's a good thing. So
Time goes when you're doing things that you love, for sure.
Do you work on one painting at a time, or do you work on multiple paintings?
I've tried working on multiple paintings, and for me, it's more difficult. It's easier for me once I get going on one to just continue and carry the thought process all the way to completion. I get really easily distracted if I have 2 going on while I'm waiting for one to set. So it's just a lot easier to start and finish the one. So.
So that one behind you, it's a little far away. It's a little hard to see. I will send the viewers to your viewing, your booth site. But you've used lots of bright colors, purples and oranges and things.
Mhm.
Does that come to you in the dream?
Yes. Yeah, I have really vivid dreams. Yeah.
I'm not
I love
sure
I love working with colors.
I was saying I'm not so sure I even dream in color. I can't remember.
I do. And then
I
are these
remember
pieces-
almost every single dream that I have. So in
that's
fact,
crazy.
when I'm working on a client, and I've had a dream about a painting the night before, and it's just it just seems to never go away. It's constantly in my mind while I'm trying to do my other work, and it's really hard sometimes to concentrate and separate the two. But and then I always just want to kind of run back in here and start getting to work on the piece that I feel like I have to do it. So.
Well, they're incredible. It seems like, from the paintings, it looks like you've been there and you have a real clear image in your head. So they're really great.
Like for instance, the image behind me with the sailboat, and that was kind of an interesting piece. That kind of emerged from when I was a child, and I used to like to go fishing. Like we had a creek that was not too far from our house, and I would make paper boats and I would float it on the creek water, and I would go fishing and catch crawdads and minnows out of there too. And this is more of an adult version of what I used to see, like when the sun was setting and how it reflected on the creek water. And it kind of just reminds me a lot of when I was little. So.
It's great.
That's a good story. Well, Linnell, thanks for joining us, and we really enjoyed getting to know you. And again, I encourage the viewers to go check out your RAVE booth, and hopefully you get some people writing in your guest book. So thank
that'd
you
be
from
great.
Nebraska.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great night.
You too. Now we're going to switch over and take a long flight to Prague.
Over to Prague, and we are going to speak with Marcella, who we actually spoke to earlier this week. As we said, she lives in Prague, and I think it's 2-3 a.m. her time. So we did a previously recorded session. So let's take a look at that.
Welcome, Marcella, all the way from Prague in the Czech Republic. Wow, this is a first for us. That's terrific. It's so
Nice. Nice to hear you, nice to see you, and thank you very much for the chance to participate in RAVE Virtual Fair.
Yeah, you're welcome. When we chose you because when we saw your work, you've done a really good job with your abstracts, and Hannah and I both love the work. So,
can you tell us a little bit about when you started painting?
Yes, it was exactly at my 33 years, when I was 33 years old. I was working at the Institute of Economy as a scientist. And this time, well, I wasn't too much happy in this work. And I had one colleague by origin Tunisian, and he showed me how to make mosaics. And that was the real beginning of my art career, I can say. And at that time, I realized that this is my last and the only one chance to change to make the great changes in my life. And I concentrate on it very hardly, very, very, very much. So first steps and procedure of the mosaic, it was a direct method. So I don't know if you know the procedure, but you have to prepare the axial inverted motif, lay down the glass, and on the surface of the glass, you glue the pieces of the mosaics. And that means that you don't see the real picture or the real effect. If your work is correct or no, because you see the back side of the motif. Yes, then lay the concrete on it and so on. But what was interesting that it was in 1989, the time of the Velvet Revolution in my country. And it was really beginning, so I started to cut the pieces of the stained glass. It's very hard glass piece, using as in the swimming pools and so. And I cut it with my hands, put it in the plastic bag, because it was very dangerous. So I used the pliers and cut it, and keen fragments were falling down around. And I watched the TV, fascinated, because of the event of the Velvet Revolution. Yes, I remember it exactly. This first 2 days. Later, we went to the demonstrate also, and so. I remember my beginnings of the work with the mosaics in this way.
Yeah, and then you advance to the abstract paintings that you're doing now behind you, and
yes, it was a long period with a lot of breaks, but from this more classic paintings, I now tend to abstract. Last 7 years, and I want to. I like this mixing of colors, the work with the colors. I like to use the ornaments in my paintings because I have very nice memories for my travels, for my journeys to Orient, to Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Syria, Jordani, and so. You can find some ornaments in my paintings from this period too. And so spirals, lines, different shapes, and some touches of what around. I mean, some monuments, historical monuments. And yes, I like also to go deeper in the history, in the ancient history of the earth. And that's why you can find also in my paintings some ancient music inscriptions, some letters from the ancient languages, and archaeological artifacts too, and so and so.
Yeah, and I would encourage the people watching to go to your RAVE page and check it out, because I have another screen here. I can look on it, and the use of the color white and the lighter colors really make your paintings pop. And you can certainly see the artifacts, trees,
Yes,
objects, you know,
yes.
you know, the Forgotten World piece, for instance, that's behind you is just terrific. And
Thank you.
yeah, and you've done a really good job with incorporating your travels into your painting. So it's a really good theme that you've done. That's why we picked you as one of our artists. So, you know, good job there. And your prices are very reasonable, you know.
Yes. Thank you for this information. You see, my country is a very small one, and we have very low art market. So also the prices developed are dependent on it. And yes, what can I do?
We have people watching from all over the world, and you know, we can ship anywhere. So if they buy some of your work, we'll be able to get it to them. They should know that.
Yeah.
Well, it's really been nice having you, and getting to know a new friend in the Czech Republic has been very special.
Thank you. I appreciate your work and your help to the artists in this COVID terrible time. And yes, thank you all the team, and yes, Hannah, Laura, and Eric. It's nice to meet you.
You too. So keep painting, and we'll keep trying to sell your work and introduce people to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, and I see you in New York.
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
see you in New York. Yeah.
Yes, we see you. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, that was good. I enjoyed meeting her.
I did
And
too.
it was a little bit of a language barrier there, and I know, bear with us, but she's a pretty good painter. And like I said, go check out her booth space. So now we're going to go to Montreal, Canada, and talk to Samir Samoun. Samir launched his career over 25 years ago at Art Expo New York, where he met
Hello.
many collectors. Hi,
Hi,
Samir.
Samir.
I'm giving
Hi,
your
how are you?
introduction.
Good evening.
Good.
Good.
And Samir maintains a large collector base, especially on the East Coast. I've known started with Art Expo years ago. And so Samir, you've been so successful at our shows. What do you, and there's a painting behind you, one of your paintings, beautiful. What do
Thank
you
you.
attribute your success to?
Well, I mean, the main part of it come from Art Expo New York, really. Well, I started painting in the 80s, but in 96, you guys came to Montreal while I was doing a show, and you said, I don't remember who came to my booth, and he said, why don't you come to New York? I think you will have success. And I said, well, let's do it. So I actually, in 96, I started. And but since then, I met practically all the gallery that I have all over the US at your show. And thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's, I couldn't have done it if I was just showing my work in Montreal in the US. That was a tremendous exposure. Of course, I mean, yeah, go ahead, Anna. You
Your
wanted
work
to ask?
I do, yeah. Your work is beautiful and your landscapes are, incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about your travels and where you gather all your inspiration?
Yeah, mainly they are from few places that I really love, and I have like affection and connection with. First is my hometown in Lebanon. It's called June, where they grow very old olive trees. And this painting behind me is actually my olive tree, and the wheat field just it was in front of it, and I was walking down there with my father, and I just made a sketch of that field, and I asked my father, "What is this road there?" He said, "Well, I mean, there are probably some wild animals that went there." And so from June, this is my hometown. There is another a couple of other places in Lebanon. One is my mother hometown. It's not far from June. It's about I would say 8 miles. And then on the Mediterranean shore. After that, we jumped to Montreal, and this is where I mean, a lot of my painting come from around the forest where I live, like the autumn scene and the place called Mount Saint-Hilaire, where I paint in plein air, the apple orchard. And the Montérégie is a big kind of plain, and there is a lot of wonderful landscape with all kind of lupins. They grow there, and lavenders and mustard field. Tuscany is another place that I love very much. I go there every year. And Florida, the beaches, they come from there. And I do paint Boston a lot. I did paint because there is Gallery d'Orsay in Boston. They're very successful, and they asked me to do Boston, especially the park. All right, so of course I do other scenery from Europe, from Paris, from New York. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the viewers can see if you slide over a little bit, Samir. I want to see that path that goes through the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. There's a path that goes through that field, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And the viewers can see that you paint in a somewhat impressionist style, plein air painting, many paintings you paint outside. And I know that you still own and operate an olive oil farm in Lebanon. So, you know, anybody tonight that buys a painting from Samir also gets a free bottle of olive oil, right?
Of course, of course, of course. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this olive oil comes every year from Lebanon to Montreal, and it's had been like this since 95, I guess, 85, I would say. So it's my father used to send this to us, and then my father passed away. So I picked up the tradition. So I bring olive oil every year to Montreal from the field behind me, and I own that field. It's a tradition, and I love that. Yeah.
Probably the best olive oil you can get, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably if I can say a word, about that, you see, June, my hometown, is known for a very, very old olive trees. Some of them goes like back to Jesus Christ time. It's really amazing. And the oldest the tree is, the deepest the root goes in the ground. And actually that gives other flavor to the fruit. It's like wine. You see the wine, like the big chateau, when the plant is very old, it gives better wine. You know that. So the same thing with olive trees, and June is known for that. And the olive oil from June is very delicious. One day I'll make you taste that. I don't know if I can bring it to the US, Eric, because we have to declare food and things like that. But I will try. If they want to keep it at the border, they'll keep it at the border. That's it.
Well, I want to encourage the viewers to view your webpage, because when I stand in front, Samir takes a pretty large stand at our New York shows in Miami every year. And when I stand in front of your paintings, you know, you've done a great job capturing even that painting behind you. You can feel the wind blowing. You can feel the heat in the air. You do a great job with the work of the lighter colors, white, in creating light. You know, I just want to thank you for being a part of Art Expo and the Redwood Art Group family for so long. You know, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for all what you're doing for artists, emerging artists. And Art Expo is a very important platform for all artists to participate, because this is where they actually meet the galleries and meet the public, and it's always a joy. And looking forward for our next event live, Eric.
We are too. Well, thanks, Samir.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Now we're going to head over to, I think we have, two more artists.
Two more.
Yeah. So we'll head over to Linda Roberts, who's in Helena, Montana. And Helena is the capital of Montana. Hello, Linda.
Linda, you're muted.
Uh-oh. Take us off mute.
There we go.
Hey.
You did that on purpose.
I thought you did, yes. Gave me a chance to. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're great.
Good.
So can you tell us about why you chose the medium of photography?
Well, I don't paint. So I just like no, I really can't. It's just always been a part of me. It's always been a part of my life. I've always had a camera in my hand. So I don't think it was necessarily a conscious choice. It just is what it is.
But you had a regular job, and then you decided to attend the Rocky Mountain School of Photography, right?
Correct. I was a mastectomy fitter and an orthotist. We had that business for about 20 years. And when we retired, I tell people I ran away from home and went to photography school. So I was gone about 6 months, 8 months, and Rocky Mountain School of Photography in Missoula, which is about 100 miles from me, and did their entire program, and it was fantastic. And it just kind of gave me the impetus to get started with galleries and showing my work as art. Just kind of a step up. And then I found you guys.
So a lot of photographers have mentors. Did you have a mentor?
I did. Years ago, I worked for an engineering company in California, in Redding. And the company photographer there took me under his wing, and he mentored me and taught me how to take a photograph. He taught me about composition. He taught me about light, all the technical aspects of a photograph. And it helped me a lot. I did that, and I did some formal education at the local community college, with the dark room and that. And I have to tell you, that's magical. I will never forget that. And I would love to have a physical dark room again, but I don't. So did that, and Vern helped me get my first Nikon. I started with a Praktika. I don't know if you know the brand, but it's a German camera. And back in the 70s, my husband bought me a little Praktika 35 millimeter for Christmas, because I had a little point and shoot, and I was always taking pictures of stuff. And so he bought me this camera and a lens for Christmas, and Vern taught me how to use it. And I wore that camera out. And when I needed a new one, then that's how I got started with using Nikon.
Yeah, and just so the audience knows, you shoot these incredible nature scenes. So where exactly do you take all these beautiful photos?
I've had people ask me where I like to photograph the best and what I like to photograph the best. And my answer typically is wherever I am with my camera and whatever is around me. But generally in Montana, I do a lot in Yellowstone and in Glacier and various other places in Montana. But we travel to Arizona every year. And so I have some things from the desert Southwest, which has its own kind of beauty. I was born and raised in the Midwest. So when I go there, I take photographs. And East Coast. I've been to the East Coast, and one of the images on my virtual booth, Infinity, is actually from the East Coast. It's from a place called Chincoteague Island.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that. Infinity is a fantastic piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the floral pieces you have, is that in your own garden?
It was. That was a very good year for my flowers. And I haven't had one quite as good since. But it was in my own garden. Pardon?
And your photography, right?
And
good for both.
Good for both. It was good for both. Yes. And I like doing. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, Linda, how do you determine how large to make each piece?
You asked me that the other day, and I've been thinking about that. The image tells me. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The image tells me how large it wants to be. And, I'll do very tight shots of a leaf or a weed or something, and that obviously doesn't get large. But like the landscapes, like the ones behind me, the image will tell me if it needs to be big and how large I can make it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've talked to many photographers, and it's funny, we were talking about education and stuff, and one of them said to me, you either have it or you don't. And I asked him, how do you determine how large to make the pieces? And he's like, the image will tell you exactly what you answered. So
yeah, the image will tell you. If it wants to be big, it will.
Yeah. So the pieces behind you are a little far away for the audience to see. So I'm going to ask the viewers to go to your RAVE page for sure and check out the images, because they're fantastic. And it's the reason we picked you to be on RAVE session number 2 tonight. So what time is it in? It's got to be 7:15 or so in Montana.
It's 6:15. I'm an hour
6:15.
I'm an hour ahead of you.
Okay,
No,
and is
hour
there,
I don't know. I get mixed up. It's 6:15.
you're ahead of us.
You're ahead.
And is there snow on the ground?
No, we're 55 degrees and sunny today. But we're
Good for
supposed
you.
to get snow next week. So, you know, this is a teaser. And then we
Yeah,
go back to
that's
our
right.
boots and hats and gloves. Yeah,
That always happens, that little teaser every year.
it does.
Well, thanks for
Every
joining.
year.
Thanks for joining us, Linda. And, you know, we hope to see you at one of our live events soon. So,
I hope to be able to go again. I was hoping for Santa Fe this year. That was where I was going to go back. And then of course that didn't happen. Fingers crossed. So maybe San Diego.
yep,
Yeah, absolutely.
that'll be
Yeah.
awesome.
It will be.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for including me. Bye.
Of course. Have a good night. And then next up
Oh.
we have, we're gonna go over to Philip. He's in Canada.
St. Albert, Edmonton, Canada,
Yeah.
near Edmonton.
Philip, are you there?
I am here.
There you go.
Do I get to drink my
Hello.
whiskey anyway, or?
You.
Whatever you like. Cheers.
Slanja?
So Philip, just to let you're just outside of Edmonton, Canada.
Yeah, we're
Um,
about 5 miles north of Edmonton. Not very far.
Right. And
You live in Canada, but you've spent a lot of time in Hawaii, right?
I've spent a lot of time in Hawaii over the last few years. Been there probably at least a dozen times over the last 10 years, but more, especially in the last 4 years.
and the reason for that?
Well, the first time we went down for my 25th anniversary, my wife, actually, we were going to go to Tofino in BC and for our 25th anniversary. But when she told me the prices for the hotels in Tofino, I said, oh my gosh, we could probably go to Hawaii for less. So we ended up going to Hawaii instead, to Maui. And there I ended up seeing all the different art galleries on Front Street, fell in love with the place. And so we went back again. And then I got to meet a few art directors and salespeople, and had a great story to tell about that we talked about before, but a good friend of mine now, and my mentor. So that's been great. So we continue to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Not a bad
So-
place.
We
Not a
can
bad
we can
place at
see
all.
a few. No, not at all. But we could see a few pieces behind you a little bit, and Philip paints some great seascapes and waves and landscapes that the viewers should go check out your RAVE booth to see a little bit better, because they're kind of far away there. But why don't you tell us the story about meeting Ray? There you go.
There we go.
And tell us the story about meeting Ray Tabora, because that was a pretty good story that I enjoyed, because I ran a gallery in Hawaii for many years, and I was there every 3 months, and I know exactly the locations you're talking about. So take it
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, so a few years ago, about 4 years ago in the summertime, I was at the Sergeant's Fine Art and taking some up-close photos of a piece by Fabian Perez. It's The Old Man at the Bar, which, for a lot of reasons I connected with, and just a beautiful piece. And I was taking close-up photos of the brush strokes and just trying to figure out the painting and stuff. And the director, Jill Jacoby, asked me if I was an artist. And I said, well, I try to be sometimes. And she said, well, most of you artists tend to have stuff on your phone. So why don't you show me what you got? And so I did. And she was very kind and said I should come back, if I'm going to come back, to bring some of my originals with me. And so I did the following year. And I met with her and had a great conversation. And one piece in particular stood out for her. That's my Tuscany Dreams, which is on the website. And I think it's also on the 9 that I submitted. And I had already sold it, though. And so I was going to hand it off a week later, but I had it with me. We're going to have a convocation or convention after we got back from Hawaii, but I brought it to show Jill. And she said she loved all the watercolors. I had not started to do oils yet. And anyway, she said she loved it. And if I could do it in oil, they'd probably take it. And I thought, this is great. And so my daughter and I went to Bubba Gump's across the street and had a couple beer. And because it was kind of a conditional yes, a little bit of affirmation. It was great. And of course, my daughter loved it because she likes beer anyway. So it was good. So we then went down the street to Lahaina Gallery. I knew a salesperson there who was not in, Steve, but a gentleman by the name of Brian Connolly was in. And he saw me come in with my portfolio, and you could see from the look on his face, he's like, oh my gosh, not another artist who thinks, and so I asked him, could you just look at one piece? Just give me a fair assessment. Just let me know. I'm just looking for advice. So he loved the same piece that Jill did, the Tuscany Dreams. And long story short or shorter, he asked me if I'd ever met Roy Tabora. And I said, I know I haven't, but I love his pieces. The front third, I'm sure, of Lahaina Gallery is nothing but Roy Tabora, and beautiful work. That romantic realism that he has is just gorgeous. And so he said he's coming Friday to paint. Why don't I'd like you to meet him. So came along Friday. I forgot everything at my condo. And so I didn't bring anything with me. And so Roy said the same thing. Well, let me show me what you got on your phone. And then we talked for a bit. Wonderful man, generous, kind-hearted, just generous in so many ways. And so he invited me to come and paint with him. And so I think probably by the end of that night, I had already booked a flight and a condo in Oahu in January to go see Roy. And so since then, we've spent 8 to 10 days, 4 times over the last 2 years, painting and learning and becoming friends. Just an immense wealth of artistic ability. It's just amazing. So that's why I love Hawaii and I love Roy.
That's great.
That is so great. I want to apologize. I think I introduced you accidentally as a photographer, but your paintings are that incredible that it looks like a photograph behind your shoulder.
Yeah. I told my wife once that I'm a realistic impressionist, and she just kind of looked at me like, what? I don't think there's such a thing as realistic impressionism. I was like, I don't think there is either, but it doesn't matter. So I tend to bounce back and forth. Yeah.
You made up a new term. Yeah.
And
so
what are you working on now?
Right now, well, these 2 pieces here, this is the West Coast piece of British Columbia. And there's actually another smaller piece of West Coast piece. I actually started last night. It's a 12 by 18. And I would go get it, but it's behind a whole bunch of stuff over here. And, I'm not sure you want to waste any time. I kind of going through the minefield of artistic stuff, junk and whatever. But these 2 pieces, that top one's going to go to West Palm Beach in February of 22 with Steidel. And this one here, I don't know yet. I just started doing it a while back and I just liked the idea and continued on. The other one over here is a little monochromatic piece with indigo. And it's coming along quite nice. It's along the river, going to a Blue River, just north of Kamloops, BC. So.
Oh yeah, I've been to Kamloops.
Oh yeah, it's a great little place.
Yeah. Well, I would encourage anybody watching that's interested in Philip's pieces to see his. Definitely check out his page, and you can write in his guest book. And maybe even you might be interested in something he's painting today and get in touch with him. So it's been delightful getting to know you, Philip.
And you, Eric and Hannah. It's been great.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you at one of our live events.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
I hope so too. It'd be nice. And hopefully I'll be a little bit more organized aside from last little bit. And there's no prices or stuff on my whatever. And I'm just so disorganized. But if anybody wants to look at something, I'm very reasonable. And I just always like the idea of somebody enjoying a piece of art and loving it and just giving it a home. So, but thank you. You guys have been great.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
See you, Philip.
Take care. See you soon, I hope.
And the viewers can go check out Philip's booth as well on the RAVE site. And you should be sure to check out all of the artwork from today and from our incredible exhibitors, our RAVE exhibitors, from innovative galleries to top independent artists. We have it all. And we encourage you to utilize the guest book as well, make appointments with them, get to know them a little bit better. Kind of like a one-on-one way to meet the artist, which is really exciting.
And join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, for when we will meet the Executive Director of Vanguard Culture and hear about what's happening in the vibrant arts community. We'll be visiting artists and galleries throughout North America, including the unforgettable Chuck Jones Gallery. Now, you're thinking Chuck Jones, Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Everybody watched those cartoons, and I'm not kidding. It's actually fun to look at the work and some of the things that he did in the past.
It really is.
We'll meet a salsa dancer who just can't stop being creative.
An artist who has ties to Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, and a dynamic painting duo who, and more intriguing conversations to be had. So stay with us now as we watch the San Diego Art Prize curator Kai Essery's interview with the 4 Art Prize winners, truly remarkable artists, each living their own passion as bi-national cross-border artists. So roll the video, Laura, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks
Same
for
time,
joining.
same place.
Hello, I'm Kai Essery. I'm the curator for the San Diego Art Prize. Each year, the Art Prize honors 4 artists for their exceptional creativity and their contributions to the San Diego arts community. This year's recipients each have their personal dialogue with the border, whether they're addressing it head on or crossing it because they live and work on one or both sides of the border. They each bring a unique viewpoint to this binational experience that is alive and well in San Diego. I'd like to introduce you to Perry Vasquez, whose past work dealt heavily with the border. Currently, he is working with palm trees, which he previously dismissed as a step of tourism. As far as the palm trees, the subject matter of the palm trees, what does that mean to you? And how is it that you keep coming back to it?
I keep coming back to it because I'm not bored with it yet. So it literally, I just am fascinated by it. And I almost think of each one as a portrait. So what you could ask, well, do you ever get tired of painting portraits? No, one never gets tired of the human face, right? It's just intrinsically interesting. And so that's the short answer. But really, my interest in landscape goes back to when I first started painting when I was 15 years old. And my first exposure to fine art was through Vincent van Gogh, and by extension, post-expressionism, and by extension again, impressionism, and those artists were engaged with landscape. And so landscape was, in terms of a cultural discourse, it was lively, it was alive, it was living. And so that was my entry into art. And up to that time, I had just been drawing out of books and things like that. But after being exposed to Van Gogh and his colleagues in that era, I began to realize that in order to improve, you had to imitate nature. You had to start copying nature or working with nature. And at the time, I was a member of an evangelical church in High Point, North Carolina, and the church ladies there who were teaching me biblical exegesis and Bible stories and such invited me to start coming out on barn sketching expeditions to encourage me. So I used to do that when I was 15 years old. And so landscape has been part of my artistic DNA since I first began as a 15-year-old student. And I haven't continually operated as a landscape painter throughout my career, but it comes back from time to time. And so this is an example of it coming back in this admittedly kind of odd iteration, because it kind of violates all of the conventions of landscape. I'm not dogmatic about it. I don't, all of them are on fire. Some of them are, but I think I'm just becoming more interested in the palm tree as a subject, right? So looking at it from all aspects, but it kind of grows out of the first time I saw a burning palm tree, and I thought, whoa, amazing. Okay, I've been in Southern California for many years, and frankly, palm trees had become invisible to me, and the stuff of tourist art. So I wasn't interested. I thought they were boring, until I saw one burning, and then I realized that it completely, shifted the whole perspective I had on them. So at that point, it became interesting. And as the German philosopher Heidegger once said, you never notice things until they go wrong, and then you notice them.
So we're here with Belize Iristay. She's from Turkey and she's living in Mexico and doing the binational, coming across both borders, working and living on both sides of the border. And so for you, a challenge that you deal with, if you were back in Turkey, there's certain things that you can't talk about or that would not be legal to talk about in a certain way in Turkey that you can do here in Mexico and the US. So I wanted you to just talk a little bit about that.
Yes. I do think that some of my work wouldn't be welcome to exhibit in a country where there's no freedom of speech and no democracy. So, and in my art practice, I investigate contemporary issues in environmental politics, gender issues, and cultural tensions. So therefore, I don't see my work to be a first choice. Some of my work, like Wonder Boy, and it talks about the gender issues and for the bisexuality or for the gay community that is not still not accepted over there. And the other
you're talking about the history of it in Turkey.
Oh, yes, correct. I do. And the Wonder Boy is a figure that is wondering who he is because of the ancient, Turkish history in Ottoman times, when the figurative drawings or arts were not allowed to be practicing. There were tons of limitations. So what I'm talking in this work, it's about these gender issues.
In that piece, you're talking about how before there was gay or bisexual relations, and now that's totally legal. So you're kind of like talking about that, how it has a historical in Turkey.
Yes, but it stayed that way. That's the problem, where we are in the 21st century, where we are all talking and things are legalizing. It's still same in my perspective. So that's how I am bringing out these politic issues, gender issues into my work.
And that's not something you could do in Turkey.
That would be difficult. It wouldn't be, like I said, it wouldn't be welcome because at the moment with the current government, things are very difficult to arrange in the art, especially in the art world, and there is a lot of censoring. So that's one thing that can happen.
Perfect. And so that's something that you're enjoying, that freedom to talk about those issues in Mexico and the US.
Exactly. What happens also is that the immigrant aspect of my own identity pushes me to explore a wide range of distorted politics and traditions in my work.
So we're here with Hugo Crossway, who is one of the recipients for the San Diego Art Prize for 2021. And we're just gonna kind of see what he's doing in his studio today. So hello, Hugo. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about what you were, your pandemic journals, what you were doing during this pandemic and the different themes that keep popping up for you in that.
Well, I've been just working on my sketchbook pretty much, precisely because this is a moment where usually artists are always quarantined in a way. We're always locked in our studio and we're always working, but just because of what's happening outside, there's this anxiety, So then I wasn't able to actually concentrate. I couldn't concentrate on doing my real work because it was just, too many things happening and, in the news and all this, the uncertainty. So then, what I decided to do was just concentrate on my sketchbook. Don't worry about making art or trying to do art, just do the practice of drawing, which is something that's always, for me, has been very meditative. You draw, and in a way, it's kind of like prayer. You do this, and it's a way of just dealing with worries or anything that you're dealing with at that moment. And as I was working on my sketchbook, I decided to, I had been doing these stop motion drawing animations. So then I decided, what if I do a stop motion drawing animation of my daily practice of doing a page in my sketchbook. So then as I started doing this, I would grab my sketchbook, and start drawing, and I would take a picture and then do a little bit of another detail and then take another picture and do another detail. So then when I would put it together as a stop motion drawing, I'm using one hand to hold the sketchbook down, and I'm using my other hand to draw and to take a picture. So then when I would put the stop motion drawing animation, it's really curious that you could see my hand kind of like holding the book, but because it's a series of sequential photographs, it would look like if I was caressing the sketchbook. So that got me this idea of how. This idea of the sketchbook is kind of like a visual diary. It is this precious thing, that you're creating every day, and you're creating a narrative, a personal narrative. So then I decided to do this project entitled a Quarantine Drawing Sketchbook. So basically, it's a series of 30-second stop motion drawing animations of one page of my sketchbook, and my intent is to do 40 videos that at some point I would exhibit in 40 screens. So then the idea is that this private moment, or this moment of pandemic where we're locked in our lives, becomes reduced to, for example, right now in Zoom, our life is reduced to the screen. My life during this moment of quarantine has been reduced to my sketchbook, not to this small format. And then by presenting it through a series of videos, it would have kind of like this look of something very personal, but then on the other hand, it looks like surveillance. 40 screens with 40 pages of something very personal. It has this element of, our lives are, is done through this screen, this artificiality of something very personal and organic as drawing, being done, presented through a screen. And then also being this element of the voyeur. You're seeing these 40 screens, and you're seeing intimate elements of my life during this moment of pandemic. So that's what I've been working at this moment, just doing these stop motion drawing animations. And I'm hoping to finish soon. I'll have 40 videos done. And then at some point in the future, exhibit them as 40 screens, video screens with each page. This is a historic moment right now in the entire world. Everybody right now can relate to this moment of crisis and this moment of pandemic. So then elements like that started getting into my sketchbook. So it's going to be 40 drawings, 40 films, 40 little films, and it's going to have elements from pandemic, from the border, from just family relationships, being stuck, with your, with the same people
every day.
every day, exactly. So all those I'm trying to to present through my sketchbook, and present it precisely as this visual diary, which of course, being drawing and being figurative drawing is not about, it's not journalism, it's not about the truth. It's just about inventing things that kind of hint at the worries and the truths that I'm experiencing at this moment of pandemic. Like I think it was Picasso who said, drawing, well, art in general is the lie in the service of truth. Because we're making things up, but we're making things up with this intention of presenting something that's very true, very real, our personal experience done through drawing and done through a technique. So yes.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So I'd like to introduce you to Panka, who is a street artist, muralist who lives in Mexico and works on both sides of the border. And Panka, you were saying that you were kind of having, during the pandemic, you're having a little bit of, not writer's block, but artist block. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of events, and after like each event, I kind of wanted to like either do a doodle. I don't think I ever got past a doodle because things kept happening and getting more extreme, and it started creating like a form of creative block in me, and like I couldn't really work as much as I'd like to. So I felt like blocked a little bit, and I had to do with like the protests, with COVID, and with the changes and adapting to everything, and it sort of having to work for the Children's Museum and like create this world that like had like a positive outlook on it, but at the same time had to get like myself there. So that was a little bit difficult, I think, but also helpful, because I think if I didn't have it, it would have kind of let me like fall. So because I had to do like an online type of drawing show, like Bob Ross for kids. So that was weekly, and it was kind of like very positive and helpful for me. But yeah, that was a little bit difficult. So that for me has been like the adapting to that has been interesting.
The Children's Museum. Tell me a little bit about the challenges with that, with coming up with everything that's happening. You're telling me, trying to come up with something positive for that has been interesting for you.
Yeah, well, you have to create like a little world for children to like enjoy and feel safe and happy and learn and sponge out. But if everything around is like super dark and everything that was happening this year, it was a little difficult to like meet certain deadlines because the things that were going on were a little intense, but it was also kind of helpful. And I think that thinking that when kids finally do go to museum, this is what they're going to see. That's kind of been like a little bit like a light at the end of the tunnel, to know that eventually kids will go to museums and they will see this and they will enjoy it, and it has to be cool because kids are kind of starved for creative outlets as much as their parents. So that's kind of been my motivation.